Sun Tzu is an outstanding ancient Chinese strategist and commander, the author of a unique treatise on military operations called The Art of War. The treatise contains chapters on various areas of military affairs. It should be noted that the essence of the treatise, The Art of War by Sun Tzu, boils down to only one thing. War should be avoided, and military operations should be used only in extreme cases when it is necessary to preserve the state and people. This is what makes the treatise very relevant at all times and allows it to be used in our time not only by the military, but also by middle and senior managers in resolving conflict situations without loss of life. So, The Art of War is a methodological manual on tactics and strategy for conducting military operations. By studying it, you can acquire the basic skills of fighting an opponent. Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War, carries the theory of 5 factors: path, heaven, earth, commander, law, and 7 elements. Having studied these elements in detail, we can conclude that the path is unity between the state and the people, the sky is time or timing, land, terrain calculation, commander, the trustworthiness of the commander, the law is the organization and training of troops. Having applied all the necessary calculations and the ability to apply tactics, the commander will definitely win. Sun Tzu's rule of warfare is to keep combat operations short, proving that the longer the war continues, the more forces and resources are depleted and power weakens. However, battle and victory are not the best that a ruler can do for his state. It is better to win the war by avoiding battle altogether. Preserving the enemy state and its armed forces will bring more benefit. Victory without a battle, defeating the enemy's plans. This is the ideal outcome of the war. There is a need for skillful policies that can help achieve the goals. Fighting is an extreme and very dangerous method of struggle. If we consider the forms of combat, Sun Tzu considered defense and offensive to be the main forms. He wrote, "Invincibility is defense. The ability to win is offensive." When they are on the defensive, it means there is something lacking. When they attack, it means there is everything in abundance. He who defends well hides in the depths of the underworld. He who attacks well acts from the heights of sky. Stealth and surprise are the basis of a successful offensive. In this, Sun Tzu was one of the first who tried to show that the art of war lies in the ability to use them to defeat the enemy. There is one more condition for the successful leadership of military operations. The commander must maintain secrecy. The plan he has developed should not be known to anyone. When moving troops, act according to your calculations and plans, and do so that no one could penetrate them. In order to maintain the secret of the conceived plan, he advises deceiving even his officers and soldiers. A commander must be able to deceive the eyes and ears of his officers and soldiers and not allow them to know anything. He must change his thoughts and change his plans and not allow others to guess about them. He must change his location, choose circuitous paths for himself, and not allow others to figure out anything. It doesn't matter whether a small town or a large army is controlled by a commander. Correct calculation, the ability to use the terrain and control troops, all this is driven by tactics. The battle must be conducted correctly, then a maneuver will be ensured, the result of which is victory. During the fight, power must correspond to the constantly changing environment, which guarantees a lightning-fast attack. You need to be able to attack and defend. To attack, choose an unprotected place, and to defend, you need to defend a place that is not being attacked. Then the enemy will be confused. He will scatter his forces. Fighting is an integral part of war, and the most difficult thing is the ability to take advantage. In Sun Tzu's understanding, the weapons of struggle are strategic and tactical art, the art of organization and management, knowledge of the psychological factors of war, and the ability to use them, and the quality of a commander. The importance of information cannot be overstated. If you do not know the intentions of potential allies, you should not enter into an agreement with them. If you do not know the situation and terrain, it is impossible to send troops and achieve advantages. The result of achieving benefits is victory. Therefore, the struggle is for profit, and its result can be both success and failure. Fighting in war leads to gain. Fighting in war leads to danger, says Sun Tzu. Therefore, it is necessary to know the rules of wrestling and ensure success by knowing these rules and mastering the art of wrestling. In the chapter 9 Changes, Sun Tzu describes various situations in which you can find yourself while in enemy territory and what to do in these cases. It is necessary to take into account the terrain and its relief. Do not linger for long in places where there is no water, forests, or shelter. In order to prevent surprise attacks, it is necessary to enter into alliances with neighbors. One should benefit from what is done and harm from what is not done, and be cunning. There are 5 dangers for a commander. If he strives to die at all costs, he may be killed. If he strives to stay alive at all costs, he may be captured. If he is quick to anger, he may be despised. If he is overly sensitive to himself, he may be insulted. If he loves people, he can be weakened. These are not just shortcomings of the commander, but also a disaster for the entire army. The commander evaluates the shape of the terrain, both from his point of view and from the point of view of the enemy. For example, he calls rugged terrain when it is unprofitable for both sides to attack. In this case, the strategist recommends withdrawing the troops. Each type of terrain, according to Sun Tzu, has its own name and characteristics: scattering, instability, contested, confusion, crossroads, serious situation, impassability, encirclement, death. Scattering terrain is when they fight on their own land. With a minor invasion of enemy territory, the terrain is unstable. Sun Tzu also defines other types of terrain, meaning by terrain the situation in which troops operate. It is worth noting that the methods of action of troops are different. Each form of terrain performs its own function and strictly regulated. Such an assessment of the tactical significance of the terrain is quite correct. Accounting the geographical factor contributes to success and maintains the combat effectiveness of soldiers. When choosing a method of action for troops, Sun Tzu paid special attention to military cunning. In his opinion, the path of deception provides significant advantages that contribute to achieving the goal. The second point that determines the methods of action of troops is, according to Sun Tzu, order and disorder, which are the form of existence of troops. Skillfully using these seemingly opposite forms, the commander achieves a calculated and powerful blow, which is one of the main points ensuring the successful actions of the army. But for each era, they have their own special expression. The consequence of the power and timing of the blow is the seizure of the initiative. To control the enemy means to seize and maintain the initiative, which is important for ensuring success. The use of various forms of warfare, rejection of stereotypes, and tactical maneuvering lead to victory. Sun Tzu considered tactical maneuvering to be the most difficult task. Maneuver makes it possible to achieve victory. A skillful maneuver makes it possible to fragment, disperse the enemy army, and destroy it piece by piece. Sun Tzu's maneuver was also qualitative, that is, in relation to the aggravation of internal contradictions in the enemy troops. When surrounded by an enemy, Sun Tzu recommends a golden bridge because a hopeless situation can provoke desperate resistance. The golden bridge is a plan to encircle the enemy army, leaving only one escape route. According to Sun Tzu, a retreating enemy is easier to destroy than an encircled one. This idea of the golden bridge was also very popular in the Middle Ages in Western Europe, especially in the so-called cabinet wars. The issue of army control is considered by Sun Tzu in some detail. The art of commanding an army, according to Sun Tzu, is to command it as if it were one person. The principle of command is that when soldiers receive an order, they do not have questions about the meaning of the order. The means of control were gongs and drums, banners and badges, which the Chinese theorist called the ears and eyes of the soldiers. Sun Tzu also attached great importance to the intelligence service. What caught his attention, however, was the use of spies, the prototype of modern human intelligence. The ancient Chinese theorist speaks only of signs by which the presence and nature of the enemy's actions can be detected, as well as the presence of ambushes. Justifying the costs of human intelligence, Sun Tzu wrote that spies are the support on which the army operates. Considering the importance of intelligence in the conduct of military operations, Sun Tzu noted that in order to guide the activities of spies, one must have perfect knowledge, have humanity and justice, subtlety and insight. Sun Tzu's classifications of spies are interesting. There are 5 types of spies: local, internal, reverse, death, and life spies. The activities of spies made it possible to anticipate the actions of the enemy and be one step ahead. 2.5 millennia is a fair amount of time for any book. Based on the above analysis of the chapters of the work of the Chinese strategist Sun Tzu, we can conclude that his treatise has not lost its relevance and significance in the modern world. The Art of War is a book that is, in a certain sense, a textbook, the theoretical material of which finds application in the modern. Teacher Sun was far ahead of his time, and not only in the military sphere. The Art of War is the first book that laid the theoretical foundations of espionage. For a long time, it remained the only such work. In addition, for the first time, when analyzing the most effective confrontation with the enemy, the constructive use of chaos is described. I would like to note that mathematicians Poincaré, Kolmogorov, Arnold, Moses approached the theory of chaos, with which what is described is related, only in the 20th century. It is possible that such a view of the war ultimately turns out to be more sober than the currently accepted humanistic beliefs. After all, wars have not subsided throughout the entire existence of mankind. Perhaps the need for military confrontation is indeed in our nature? I would like to believe that this is not the case. Firstly, we have nevertheless learned to transfer the confrontation into more peaceful areas, from business to sports, where the principles derived by Teacher Sun are no less relevant. And secondly, a careful reading of The Art of War leads us to perhaps the most important conclusion. Fighting 100 times and winning 100 times is not the best of the best. The best of the best is to conquer someone else's army without fighting.